Night of Destruction Part 2. What a shit show. I just want to start off by congratulating Michelle Barrett on her win now, because the rest of this video is going downhill. We were figuring the compact car count was going to be a little higher than normal, because Florence wasn't running compacts that night, but we only had 20 cars. I was happy they decided to run 3 heats of us instead of 2 big heats, because I wouldn't have stood a chance of hitting a redraw if I had to work through a field of 10 cars. I drew a 60, and that put me at the tail of the third heat, and Alex started from the tail of the first heat. I wasn't 100% confident in this engine from the get-go, knowing the condition of the cylinder head, but I sent it anyway. Oil pressure looked pretty good in hot laps, and through the heat race, it was about 70 when I would cold start it, and 20-ish after making some laps. So I was comfortable enough to keep running it. I had a terrible start in my heat race and ended up working my way up to second place with about 2 laps to go. I had a good run on Landon until I took a poor entry into turn 1 and then scrubbed off a bunch of momentum. I gave it a Hail Mary throw into the bottom of turn 3 to try and squeeze by on the last corner, but started pushing up towards Landon in 4, so I let out. I was just happy to make the redraw. It's my first time getting on stage this year. Alex made it up to third in his heat and was making a pretty good run for second, but he ended up washing up the track himself in the top of turn 2 and lost some momentum. Michelle held second place in her heat race the whole entire time, and that was definitely because of some very smooth driving. The features where the night pretty much went to shit. I have a lot more about this that I'd really like to say, but I'll try to keep it reasonable. We lined up to go green, and the kid behind me kept slamming my bumper, just blasted me over and over for no reason. He ended up pushing me all the way through turn 4 before we went green. We made it 1.5 clean laps, and it was a really good run for second through fifth, until 2 complete wankers flat out dumped Alex into the wall and just drove straight through him without lifting, right at the exit chute. Another 10 foot down the track, and Alex would have slammed his driver's door into the exit wall. Alex went back out and drove on from the tail to finish 6th after that, which is pretty good, with a completely flat left front tire during the last 2 laps in a car that was pretty hurt. We'll cover that in a minute. After the restart from all that bullshittery, I raced Landon and Bobo hard for several laps. It was some of the most fun I've had racing in quite a long time. My car did develop a pretty bad push, and I was sawing at the wheel to keep it together. I think my engine was starting to give up during this, and I started to fall back a little bit. At one point, I was racing Landon really hard. I went low in turn 1 to try and pass Landon, and one of the guys that dumped Alex earlier drives right into my right rear, trying to squeeze between Landon and I. He bounced off of Landon and then hits me in the right rear, turns me towards the wall, and then forces his way up into the marbles. I already threw my car into the corner when he tried that bullshit, and he bounced off of Landon's left front, then right into my right rear, turning my car. There was nothing I could do. The very next corner, he just flat out didn't lift and drove straight into my rear left. I mean, he hit twice so hard it blew half the rivets on my rear panel out. I ended up spinning out, then scrambled to get my car back into gear because I was just seeing red. I was pissed. I had only one thing on my mind in that very moment, and that was to junk his car. I flew up on him, but Terry got on the radio and said, "Hey, D3, use your head." So I laid off. It was pretty much in that moment I realized my clutch pedal wouldn't go down any longer, that my oil pressure was a solid 0, and that I heard some rattling. I pulled into the infield for the 3rd race in a row now. I was extremely angry. I was pretty much on a hair trigger in that moment, but I sat there and thought about like all the involvement our team has with this track and how much I actually enjoy racing here, and specifically because of the staff and the friends that we've made here. I really didn't want to get banned. It was already bad enough losing the points I did because of a little boy with a temper. You can imagine my surprise when there was police intervention in the pits when I rolled back. I genuinely hope they don't come back to the bird, because I will not be kind with my front bumper next time. That being said, we'll go into the carnage that happened here. Alex's car, when he got spun, didn't initially look that bad from the stands, but his nose dragged along the backstretch wall and it sanded this push bar flat. He drew a big black, gray, and red line along that wall. And now he's got a bent frame rail here. Push bar is kinked. This frame rail is bent this way. And then it gets worse. His dash panel that we put in, it is all wavy, which means the car got squashed. And then this whole side of the car is shaped like a C now. They just didn't lift. Both of them drove right through them. And it didn't look that bad. But if you look in here, the rocker should be that thick. And it's smushed all into there. The stock frame rail is buckled here and here. Floor is pushed up right here. His dash is bent right here. And that really scares me, that this dash bar is bent behind that panel. So we're going to have to rip all that down to make sure that stuff is still safe. Nothing's torn back there. His car is going to have to go on the frame rack. It was just some stupid driving right there. My car isn't nearly as bad physically. This corner has been smashed several times. Every rivet on that back panel exploded when he smashed into me in turn 3. That was just stupid, angry driving in his part. There's no other explanation for it. You can see where he pushed me, because all of his paint is right here when he spun me into the wall in turn 2. There's no excuse for driving like that. I was really hoping to not have to work on these cars again this week, but now it looks like we've got a boatload of work to take care of. We don't race next Saturday, so we've got like 2 weeks to get some stuff done. And I think I'm going to put all my effort into getting Alex's car straight and ready first before diving into my car, because I'm honestly burnt out on it. I really want to get Alex a first win, and to be honest, I really would like to finish the new car and get it going, because I don't know how much more abuse old Trusty has in her here. I'll let you hear the carnage from the motor. It's not pretty. That's the sad part, is making 80 pounds of pressure there. But that head is clattering. I took the filter out and looked at it, and it's full of metal. And there's just no risk in using any of them. No point in the risk of using any of those parts anymore. So I'm probably going to start fresh with all that. Get working on a head as soon as I feel like it. Hopefully In 2 weeks, we'll have 2 cars ready to race. In an ideal situation, I'd have 3. But I'm going to take it easy these next 2 weeks. I'm really not going to bust my balls doing this stuff because I've been doing that a lot lately. I don't want to let this consume my life. So we'll hit you guys with a update video on how bad the carnage is on Alex's car when we start tearing it down tomorrow after work. We're probably going to take the whole front end apart and passenger door and fender and everything off, and then see if we can't get on a friend's frame rack, see how bad this thing really is. See you in the next video.